Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Iblis Manifestations podcast. Once again, I am absolutely humbled. Thank you so much for all of the tremendous feedback and response to the second episode. I'm taken aback. Like I said before, I'm just sharing my thoughts here. I'm revealing some of my own internal wiring in my own head, which, pleasantly so, seems to resonate well with some of you out there. So, regardless of the numbers, the feedback that I've had has actually been very genuine. So, whether it's one person listening or a million motherfuckers out there, it's fucking great. I really appreciate you. So, thank you for giving me your time. However and whenever it is that you do consume these episodes. So, fuck yeah. Thank you. Right, so let's get straight through to this one. So, I mentioned something in the previous episode, which I don't know if you've listened to yet or not, but I mentioned a period in my life where I used to be quite obese and overweight. And this, thankfully, is no longer the case now, as I decided to make a lot of changes in my life, in my own mindset, to get rid of some old baggage, really. Literally and figuratively, really. And that was something that, I was talking about sort of what you can do to improve these things in some ways on a philosophical level. But one thing that I didn't really expand on was the fact that, how do you even get to that level? How does one go down to such a state where they're almost not even in control of their own life? So I'm going to get to that. The subject, or the title, which I've actually chosen for this episode, is Pain and Pleasure. Now, why is that? What is the correlation between the two? And no, this is not some kind of weird BDSM fucking subject, but I think that actually, unintentionally, I think that sort of thing actually ties in with this as well, although my focus is mostly from the psychological and the philosophical aspect of this. So what do I mean by that? See, the way I look at things in general is, one of the most important realizations that I've actually had, especially in the most recent years, but it's something that I had previously that's just been proven to me further and further, and it's really stapled into my belief system, is that when you observe the universe around you and when you sort of observe life and karma and things like that, there's a lot of suffering out there, and I think that's because and by suffering, I really mean aimless suffering, because we are not doing it for a particular reason. It's almost like we're just being tortured by existence. And there seems to be no point to any of it. And I think that is, the reason for that is perhaps a lack of understanding of the causalities of life, the action, the reaction, how you have to earn something. There's something I've always said to a lot of my close friends who might even be listening to this, and it's that you have to earn the good times. And what I mean by that is if you observe life as a whole, you will, well, perhaps not everyone will come to the same conclusion. This is only my own perspective, but I sort of see certain patterns in there. And it's that pain, or at least the way we perceive pain, it is a universal currency for life. Think of it like this. What is the single most physically painful thing any human being could ever experience? You guessed it. It's childbirth. Of course. That is the most painful thing I think any human being is meant to experience by design. Of course, it only belongs to females. That's why women have much higher pain tolerance than any of us men do. Regardless of how tough we might look in the gym, women have got the upper hand on that one. And fair play to anyone who has had to go through that experience, because that is, like I said, by design, that is the most painful thing we can go through. But what's the point in this? Look at the result of what comes out when we go through the most amount of pain. Life, literally life, is born from that. And in the way that at least I perceive things, that feels like some kind of an exchange. You know, it's not meant to be easy. It's meant to count. It's meant to work for something. You know, we're going through this for a purpose, for a reason. And what is the reason? Life. Now you can take this same thing and try and divide it in many smaller aspects of life. You know, I mean, I briefly mentioned the whole gym thing. Obviously, for me or anyone else who obviously pays attention to this and spends their time partaking in activities that are physically straining, the way it works is that, yes, it is painful at the time that you go through that experience, but once it's over and you've recovered, you are now stronger. You are now better at that thing that you were before. It's the same thing with anything, really. I mean, you look at any sort of success story where it really feels like a success. It's always someone striving for something, you know, it's someone making sacrifices, trying their best to get something. And obviously, I know in the real world things are more complicated than that, but the baseline of it really is this. Now, the thing that I want to now take you back to is the fact that the lack of this pain, the lack of this quote-unquote suffering, when it is without a purpose, and the problems and the sort of emptiness that can cause within us. They always say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that's a really good saying to go by. However, there is one thing that we also have to take into consideration as well, is that the pain has to have a point, and then there has to be some kind of recovery from it as well. But anyway, going back to the point that I was at in my life where I was obese, I hated everything, I was fucking miserable, and, you know, as much as my ego wouldn't have wanted me to admit to this at the time, I was, despite having a lot of talents in certain things and a lot of courage still, I was kind of a loser back then. And, you know, I look at this with a lot of reflective views. As in, I try to understand why I became like that. And it is the why that I am going to be sharing with you. And it is very simple. I was lacking the pain. I needed the pain to stay alive. And I just didn't have enough of it. You see, at that point in my life, I was, without really realizing it, I was drowning myself in pleasures. Yes, I was miserable. Correct. But I was constantly seeking pleasures. If I wanted food, it was right there. And I'd just eat food without having any regards for it, for where it came from. And that was it. And the same thing applies to, even on a financial scale at the time, oddly enough, I felt nowhere near as much pressure as I do now, due to the circumstances at that time. And I felt no necessity. I felt no rush to go out and earn and do anything. And the same thing applied, even, and this is a very fucking big one, which we really normalize in society, and I'm going to break this down for you a little bit here. But even on a sexual degree, I had great accessibility, and it was like, okay, yeah, and I'm someone that I know how this sounds, I get it, but I'm someone who can fucking, that is something I can easily drown myself with. This is never ending. But the thing that we are not taught about it, or about any kind of pleasures, but specifically sexual pleasures, is the fact that it is draining. There's you have to, like everything, you have to budget things in life. I think that is one of the most important things that we have to look at in such a way, which we never fucking do. And I get it, some people, their experience might be the complete opposite of that. That's fine. But it's like, it's like cats. They're gonna think that every time there's food in front of them, that's supposed to be a rare occasion or whatever, because it's their survival instinct to have it. So even if one of them is like completely overweight and overfed, if you put food in front of them, they will eat it as if they're fucking starving. And I think that's exactly the same thing, and now you have to, this is where, when you live in a society where everything is, if not literally, at least in a synthetic way, available to you. You think of any of your own pleasures. Okay, well, there's like eating food, there's having sex, there's entertainment, there's everything. Whatever you fucking want to get, it's all right there. It's not like it's some kind of like weird, obscure thing, and this is why people get really weird and they become completely out of touch with a natural way of experiencing these things, because we're sort of, everything is exploited. We're out of touch, we're out of balance, we're overeating, we're over fucking, we're over consuming everything, and by consuming, I don't mean just like about eating, I mean by everything, whether it's TVs, entertainment, drugs, alcohol, fucking everything. It's just like consume. We want more. You finish with one thing, you move on to the next thing. It's like a fucking disease, just eating and consuming everything in its way. And that is dangerous when you have a whole population of an entire fucking planet and everyone has been wired to approach life the same way. That is fucking dangerous. That's how you get a country like the United States of America, where fucking like nearly half their population is obese. I might be getting the number wrong, but it's not even just the obesity factor. They're fucking over consumers, and that is terrifying. I'm sure they're not bad people. It's not a criticism of an individual. It is a criticism of a fucking system that exploits us and in return exploits other things which we consume and we feed off of. When we exist in such a way, we are more and more distanced from our natural balance with nature, whether it is in the resources that we take, in the food that we eat, and just our general seasonal activities. It almost feels completely irrelevant because whatever we want is right there at the palm of our hands. And you know, there's another thing that's actually a proven factor here as well. So, obviously, there's a serious lack of gratitude in our approach, generally speaking, anyway, which is actually the baseline of many of our problems, not just physical, sometimes I think even financial, but mostly mental problems, is that we have no gratitude for what we already have. We're always like just seeking the next thing. And in a way, I'm one of them people who actually says, fuck complacency, always seek growth. But growth isn't always in the materialistic things. In fact, that is very little of it, or it should be. We always strive for almost like the opposite of what we're supposed to be striving for. It is fucking crazy. And I look at it like this. There is a real art to the intermittent way of doing things. And there is a real beauty in goal setting and having goals in mind. Because I'll make a really silly example here, but you look at the average person who kind of becomes rich, but without having to have really worked hard for it. And it pretty much instantly fucks them up. Because in their head, they've reached the ultimate of what they thought would be the highest point of the human experience. Or at least what they thought it would be. They've reached that now. And now they got nothing else to aim for. So it's all fucking downhill from there. There's no more tunnel visions. No more goals. You just go fucking downhill. What we know for a fact, from especially observing a lot of rich people, that whilst money is it's a beautiful thing, it's great, it can fuck up a lot of people too. And understandably so, because we're sometimes setting the wrong goals as well, rather than focusing on our balance, on our own internal balance, spiritually and mentally, and where we stand with nature, when really that is the only true wealth that we have. You know, it's like we're already existing in a fucking stimulation of some sorts. Maybe not literally. Well, maybe yeah, but that's a conversation for a different day. But it's like rather than focusing on the things that we should be focusing on, all our focus is elsewhere. And I really want to make a point of this before I continue with my viewpoint of pain and what it means to earn something and what it means to actually put in effort and hard work towards something before earning what you are after. Because I look back at that time where I was struggling. I had no gratitude. I was a bitter person. And at that point, I was exactly all of these things which I just underlined. And it was that I was out of line with my own nature, with my own purpose, with the things that I already had. Because I so desperately just wanted other things. I so wanted the album to do well. I so wanted to be booked to play on that show. And whenever I would see other bands getting booked to play other shows, I would be like, fuck them. Fuck those guys. You know, and that's a really sad way of thinking. I don't recommend it to anyone because it's like every day you're waking up and drinking fucking poison. It's not good for you, man. And one thing that, I mean, I suppose I understand the world is competitive, but one thing that we all seem to forget about is knowing that another person's journey is not the same as yours. They don't know where you've been, you don't know where they've been. And you should focus on competing against yourself at all times. So yes. Yeah, so here's a fucking newsflash. You are not perfect the way that you are. If you think that way, you have fucked up. Okay? And whatever faults that will come out of you, you will start to blame them on other people. So no, you're not perfect the way you are. I'm not perfect the way that I am. What I do is I try my best to strive to be a better person every single fucking day. And not in a way that just appeases my own ego either. So if I have weaknesses, if I do something and then I look back at that and I think, how do I feel about this? How did I just make this other person feel by acting in this way? And how did this really, was this act aligned with my own purpose or not? Yes or no? I'm always questioning. I'm always trying to make sure that, you know, I'm learning. If I fuck up, I try and learn from it. Did I do good? Excellent. We'll hold on to that. You know, the whole survival instinct and the evolution of our thoughts and processes isn't always just about living and dying and surviving life-threatening situations. I think it goes way deeper than that, and it can be of the smallest of things ever. You know, it can be like, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's a very cool example because this will allow you to understand things on a different level, hopefully, if you're going about your day-to-day life. That's how it works for me. For example, every morning that you go out there, let's say you get into one street, and then there's always one person who crosses the road exactly at that time. And every time that happens, that slows you down like 10 seconds. So what you do is you decide to go down a different street. And then now you've saved yourself like 5 seconds by doing that. That, to me, is the same way. That is us learning things, and that is the same sort of pattern that we call it the survival instinct. So like if you know, we put it down to surviving life-threatening situations, but I think that applies to literally every single thing. The problem with it is that time is limited. There's never enough fucking time to learn everything, to be perfect. So the least you can do is strive to be better every day. And embrace the pain if you must. Because that is the way for growth to take place. You know, I made the example of childbirth earlier. You look at children. Children always have growing pains. I used to have it when I was a kid. You know, I used to have horrendous pains in my legs especially. You know, it's the same. If you're training, or if you're trying to, especially if you're trying to gain muscle, that is natural. Like you have an intense session, and then you spend the next day or two with that particular body part hurting. It's good. It's good to embrace that. You go through it a little bit, and then you try to expand. You try to get better, and then you revisit. There's one thing that is very important that I want you to understand. And there's a lot of factual sides to this as well. But the society in which we live in is, in fact, designed to make the individual weak. Its entire purpose is to make you weak and feeble and without purpose. Look at it like this, especially here in the Western world. You know, when I used to live over in Iran and growing up there, I always thought of the West, or at least the UK, which is where I currently live. I always thought of it as, wow, they're really free countries. They can do whatever the fuck they want. And my opinion of this has shifted dramatically since I have actually moved here. Yes, on the paper it might seem like you can do what you want, but can you really? Think of it like this. The whole purpose of being a person in a country like this, if you're really wanting to reside in the box that is given to you, which is in fact 99% of people anyway, you're looking at being born, going to school, and then going to college or not going to college, finding a job, then you gotta survive, then you gotta find a mortgage, okay? If, obviously, if you're of a slightly older generation that can actually afford fucking mortgage, mine doesn't, but that's a different story. Let's say you are gonna get a mortgage successfully, it works out better for you, you finally have somewhere to live. You now have to spend, what, fucking 25 years of your life exactly in the same location? Working for the same people? Doing nothing but the same shit every single fucking week? And then what's your outlet? Oh, they let you have weekends off, so you can go to the local pub and have a drink with your mates. What is that? What the fuck is that? How are you growing? How on earth are you expanding? And then your entire life, you are like the rat on the fucking wheel with the little cheese on a string in front of you, which you can never reach. So you make it to what, age 65 now? You get your pension. Well done. You now have more money than you know what to do with. And it's time for you to die. And if you want to pass that money on to your children, well, they've not really earned it, so they're not going to know what to do with it. So they're all going to fucking fight like hungry dogs anyway. It's it means nothing, okay? This life is fucking bullshit. And I know, listen, I understand, and I do genuinely respect people who look at this and think, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's is very conservative. Yeah, when you got kids, things are different. Yeah, okay, listen, I fully appreciate that. In fact, I have nothing but respect for people who do have children, who try their best to set up a stable future for them and try their best for them to grow up understanding and learning things as best as they can. I have nothing but love and respect for that. That's awesome. Great. But what the fuck is the point in the case of the general public when you literally have to spend your whole life pursuing something which doesn't really serve you that well anyway, only for the time to be gone? It's important to really, really think about the value of time. Really think about how important it is to have time. And listen, I am not preaching for people to not work. I know people out there who would be like, yeah, I don't want to work because I'm just feeding the system and the system is corrupt. I think if you're one of those people, you're a fucking bum. You just feed from your community and all of your surroundings, and you've got fucking nothing to give back in return. And you can absolutely go fuck yourself. That is a different thing. What I'm trying to say is that we are striving for nothing, and we're given all these synthetic pleasures, whether it's in food or whether it's in pornography. Oh man, fucking pornography. Don't even get me started. That is one of the biggest fucking stabs into the foundations of manhood and relationships. It is fucking disgusting. It is one of the worst things that you can allow enter your life, besides the likes of things like, I don't know, alcohol or drugs or things like that, which I will get into further as well. But this is another thing, you know, let's say in a more natural circumstances. I know this is sounding really traditional too, by the way, you know, and I'm someone who's pretty sort of open and relaxed about this sort of thing, generally speaking, but I'm just laying down the foundations of it. You know, I still think that regardless of what your sexual orientation as such might be, or how you even approach these things, how open you are, how conservative you are, that's absolutely fine. The thing that I'm trying to put out there is there needs to be a chase. You need to earn that. Because really, on the paper, if you look at it, at least as a male, you are trying to procreate. Okay? Now, obviously, we're the only fucking species besides dolphins that do it just for fun. And that's cool, but you still have to earn it. You know? And for us, we have this thing of like, we're so impatient, you know, we just throw our weight around and we just expect things to happen. And no relationships ever really work. Not many dates ever work because it's like a brilliant movie that we have all spoiled for ourselves because we know the ending. And if the ending is not going to be what we want it to be, then we get disappointed. Then we get angry. Then we go, oh, fuck that person. What a time waster. What happened to connections, man? What happened to really earning that special moment? What happened? And, you know, listen, I do understand the more physical, the more, I guess, to the point approach of that as well. I'm someone, listen, I totally understand. I'm someone with very sort of, how do I put this without going into too much details? I have very high levels of activities. I can go like 2 to 5 times a day if my partner is willing, and I'm happy with that. I can offer that. But I will eventually end up feeling like shit because I know how this sounds, but your semen is your life force. That is your energy. And you need to budget your energy if you really want to live a good quality life. You can't just fucking throw it away. You can't just throw it in a tissue and then throw it in the bin and then wonder why you are suddenly feeling a little depressed. It's because you've given yourself pleasure without the challenge. Do you see where I'm coming from? Do you see what I'm trying to say here? Now you have to take that aspect and apply it to all different parts and fundamentals of life. That's life. You have to fucking earn it. You can't just sit around and wait for it to happen for you. You have to go out there and you have to fucking grab it by the throat, because that's how it works. And if you're lucky, you might just win. I'll make another really crazy example here for you as well, whilst we're on the subject of pain and life. You know that there are actually shamans out there, and I believe this is recorded somewhere, where they would actually cut off their own penis to feel the most excruciating level of pain possible, purely so that they could channel this pain into their rituals, so that then they would get the most powerful results. Back to my point. Pain equals life. And then, in modern society, we have got things like cocaine. And I know, listen, I'm in the music business for the most part. I have a lot of friends. It's something I've been around a lot. Okay, it's natural, comes with the territory, but it's something that's very heavily glorified. And I would never judge, and I would never want to take this away from anyone. But here's a public service announcement. Cocaine is fucking trash. It is one of the worst things you can add into your life, besides the pornography and the likes that I just mentioned. But think of it like this. It's like, first of all, it's very expensive. It's a very expensive hobby, and that money you could be investing in doing all kinds of things. But even if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But it's expensive. It is extremely unhealthy for you. It makes you fucking paranoid. It breaks up relationships because people can't fucking trust each other, because it absolutely destroys people's short-term memory. It is fucking vile what it does to people and how unnecessarily glorified it is. I mean, people fucking waste their lives trying to just like reach the next level whilst they're experiencing this. And there is no next level. All it does is it fucking burns out all of your natural, real excitement, and anything you want to do is like, all of that goes away so that you can no longer feel that normally and naturally without that thing being there. So that's just another perfect example of these synthetic pleasures that we're surrounded by, which absolutely in no way add to our lives. All they do is take away. Because, and listen, you might be thinking, well, what's wrong with like a little bit of a reward system here? Okay, maybe I want to do this when I've actually done something else. Maybe you want to say you've gone to the gym, but then over the weekend you want to do this. Listen, that's all well and fine, but the thing I'm trying to point out here is that many things that are normalized to us are not fucking good for us at all. The things that should be normalized is the temporary pain and suffering, is the temporary lack of acceptance, which makes you do something about it, in which then, in return, you will reach a reward. And you look at any online articles or anything like that now, and all the mainstream narrative is trying to bring down on people, especially men and younger men, is to discourage them from these things and rather encourage them into being comfortable. And you know what happens when you're comfortable? You fucking die. You stagnate. You stop growing. Listen, this is like life 101. The moment you stop growing is the moment you've died. That's it. You still might be breathing, your heart still might be pounding, but you're fucking dead. There's no point. Goodbye. You're now just living and breathing and just consuming. And it's okay to think like that. It should be fine to think like that. That doesn't mean that, okay, I feel like I've stopped growing, I'm gonna kill myself. No, fuck no, that's not what that means at all. What that means is you should pursue a better version of yourself every single day. And that's all that I think each and every one of us should be striving for. And how do you do that? You do that by embracing the difficulties. You do that by embracing a challenge. If something makes you afraid, you go for it. If something is hard, you embrace it. This is what it is. This is the foundations. So everything is already provided for you, and it's going to fuck with you. So you need to find an intermittent way of doing things. You need to set goals and rewards in the sense that, okay, I want to do this thing. And even though that thing is right there in front of you, and all it takes for you to get hold of it is perhaps a financial exchange, you still should set some kind of barrier between yourself and that thing. You should still set some kind of challenge. But really, besides the recreational sort of mind training that you could give yourself, which I always try to do for myself anyway, one of the things is that once you are really aligned with yourself and aligned with your nature, as I keep saying, and most importantly, if you're surrounded with the right people, the good stuff will still feel like a challenge anyway, and it'll feel like a challenge in a really good way. No relationship that's worth having is without its challenges. Now, I'm not advocating having toxic, quote unquote toxic, whatever interactions or anything like that, but nothing that's good or that is worth anything is going to be without a challenge. And that's why I think it's really important to be grateful for what we have as well. If you've got a plate of food in front of you, try to actually think of and pay attention to where everything has come from. If there's like a bit of an animal there, you try to envision that, okay, that thing had a life, and I am now consuming a part of that life to, in a way, add to my own. That's how it is. That's how nature works, man. We fucking, like, animals eat each other all the time. Like, you gotta look at it. It really makes perfect sense. But it's not just animals, it's the earth. If you got some vegetables there, you gotta think that, okay, well, depending on what it is, let's say it's some fucking carrots, for example. That thing has actually grown inside the ground in the right climate, in the right scenario, whatever. That is the earth feeding you right there. And that's where that's come from. And a lot of times we have this detachment in our heads with what we're consuming. And that is not fucking good. Try to connect the pieces if you can, because this will dramatically improve the quality of your life. This is at least what I have personally found, because what happens is you stop taking things for granted to start with. And besides that, what will also happen is that you try to get what you need. You stop over-consuming, and you will generally find a much better balance mentally, but also physically as well. This is why we have things like intermittent fasting. I don't know if you guys have tried it, but this was something I went through quite a bit about 2 years ago, and this was something that actually helped a lot, which is a subject for a completely different day. It doesn't add too much into philosophy, besides the fact that there's ways you can sort of hack the system where, even if it's somewhat recreational, even if it's somewhat of a stimulation, at least your body and mind are experiencing things in the way that they are designed to do so. So, anyway, I hope that you guys learn a few things from this episode. I tried my best to explain these things, and obviously this is such a broad subject, it's really hard to do everything in just one go, but I have a feeling I might have made a few good points there along the way. And as always, feel free to send me any kind of feedback or any messages or comments. These things are more than welcome. I've actually been quite enjoying the interactions that have spawned from people listening to the podcast. So that's fucking great. Keep it coming if you wish. And yeah, I hope that this has been a good one. Slightly longer than the previous, I believe. I haven't checked yet, but yeah, I think it was a good one. And again, another thing I also welcome is opposing views. Because I fully understand that not everyone thinks in the way that I do. Although I also believe that in the world today, you have to be insane to be normal. That's just like if the last 2 years didn't prove that to anyone, then, you're actually insane, not the normal insane. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling on. Yeah, thank you so much to all of you guys for listening. I mean, if you've made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate your time. I hope that this conversation of just me talking at you has been fucking worth it. And I hope that I've provoked some very positive thoughts within yourself. So thank you. I am, as I've mentioned in the previous episode, and I also made a post about it earlier today as well, I am looking into bringing on guests for the show as well, so you don't just have to listen to me ramble about shit. But I'm just going to leave that there, and then we'll see how the rest of the thing goes and who comes on first and in what order and whatnot. We'll see about it. But anyway, I hope that you guys will have a great fucking week or a great day whenever and wherever you listen to this. I'll see you guys on the next one.